I'm Tom Scioli, author of Space Opera Xanadax Across the Unknown Dimensions of the Galaxy, a new creator-owned graphic novel coming in August from Image Comics. I just finished uploading the last file. The book's getting put together. It's going to be coming out soon. I'm also the author of Godzilla's Monster Piece Theater, coming in July in a new trade paperback edition. And it's been recently announced I'm doing a Twilight Zone comic for IDW. Writing, drawing, lettering, the normal, the same deal as usual, except this one will be in black and white. It'll, instead of color, to sort of mimic that Twilight Zone look. I'll be at, and you'll be there too, we're going to MacPow Festival in Cheshire in the UK. So yeah, we're hopping on a plane and flying to the UK to hang out at a comic book convention. So look forward to that.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm Matt Zeoli.
I'm going to just show you a little bit of Dungeons of Daggorath, just so you can get a sense of it.
The sound was really cool. I had never played it before.
Okay.
I like how you enter the commands to move your character, and that the heartbeat is like your life. I wasn't very good at it.
Just to give you a sense of it.
It looks great.
Yeah, it's pretty tense too.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Like, it's scary. Like,
the heartbeat.
I saw in the instructions, you don't have to type out the full words.
Yeah, you do abbreviations.
What an iconic image.
Yeah. Okay, so my heart's going like crazy.
Gosh.
So I gotta like get away from that guy, let my heart recharge a little, like slow it down a little.
Oh man.
Oh, let me get away from this guy. This guy's gonna kill me. That's the ooze. Isn't it tense?
This is intense. These are like better graphics than the Virtual Boy, I think.
I'm like so proud of myself for playing this as well as I am.
You're doing great, Tom.
Because when I was a kid, I played this game a little bit and I just could not. Like I couldn't defeat one monster.
No, I couldn't.
Becoming an adult, I felt like I got to come full circle.
Dungeons of Daggorath.
Yeah.
It's nice and smooth.
Yeah, and it holds up really well. Like, I've been hooked on it. The other thing is just having access to the internet. You can kind of like look stuff up, where when I was a kid, it was just kind of like...
Oh, no.
Yeah, there.
Nice job.
Okay.
Because I mean, you have a wooden sword. I remember also a leather shield.
Yeah, leather shield.
Oh, man.
The heartbeat's got to slow down. It gets crazy with that heartbeat. Like, have you played a game from 1983 that's like this tense? So that loud stomping sound, that sounds like thunder.
Yeah.
That's the rock troll. When the rock troll is nearby and takes a step, it's this like thunderous sound. And then of course the rattle of the snake. You keep delving deeper into the Dungeons of Daggorath.
Holy shit.
Okay, here it comes. Okay. I'm going to get my attack left ready. My A. Oh, I swung too soon. Okay. There we go. Yeah, this is also like good for like teaching you how to type. This would be great for typing classes.
Dude.
Yeah, I love how cool is
image.
That? Yeah.
And you're right. This was mentioned in Ready Player One.
I killed the rock troll. That's a big moment when you kill your first rock troll, because that means you're
legit.
You're getting stronger, because you do gain experience in this game. Like, as you defeat bad guys, you do get stronger.
You have to let your heartbeat
Gotta let it settle down, because if it gets too crazy, you die.
Dude, if I saw that rock troll, my heart would be pumping out of my...
Hopefully you're getting a sense of it, because
This is awesome for 2025. Honestly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's become one of my favorite games.
What is that creature there?
That's the slime.
Oh my god. And this game was like ahead of its time with like the health meter type thing, and like
ahead of its time for all kinds of stuff.
There's so much action going on. Are those weapons on the ground?
Yeah, that's like, well, one of them's a torch. That's a torch. That's a sword. Because this might be a better sword. Okay, and I'm gonna type reveal sword, because that'll tell you like what kind of sword it is. But reveal R, iron sword, which is like the upgrade. Sounds like the slime's getting ready, getting closer. So I went from like dying on my first creature to like being able to I can get to the third level and then die instantly on the third level. I'm gonna go down into that hole, down into the second level, show you a little bit of that.
Dude, The heartbeat really paces it.
It alternates color schemes. And you can see the light starting to dim.
That from your torch?
Yeah, my torch was starting to die, so I had to light a new one.
Okay.
Just to because it starts to dim and then it goes out. Now, drop. I'm just trying to drop some stuff on the floor. Because the other thing with this game is the monsters have to pick up anything that's on the floor. They have to pick up. And so they can't attack you until they've picked everything up. So if you're standing in an area where there's a bunch of junk on the floor, you can get a bunch of free attacks in before.
While they're grabbing all the stuff.
Yes. That clunk is
what does that mean?
That's a knight. The knights are terrifying. They're giant. You can't even see the top of their heads. They stretch from floor to ceiling, and they're super tough.
Oh my god! Holy shit!
Oh, he killed me. He took me out. Okay, so that gives you a sense of the game, and then the wizard shows back up to taunt you.
It's brutal.
I wanted to talk about Dungeons of Daggorath. We did our dungeon crawl episode. I'm looking for a good dungeon crawl, and Dungeons of Daggorath is one that had this big mystique when I was a kid. So, were you aware of it at all?
No, not when I was little whatsoever.
Had you read Ready Player One?
I had read Ready Player One, but I had forgotten about the plot moment.
Yeah, that part didn't stand out. Well,
because it didn't. They didn't. That wasn't in the movie version.
It wasn't in the movie. Yeah. I mean, it stood out to me because I had the Tandy color computer when I was a kid. That was my computer. We had a Radio Shack near us that we'd go to, and so my first computer was a Radio Shack Tandy color computer. And the best game for it was Dungeons of Daggorath. That was hands down the game. It's the iconic game. It's the one game from that system people still talk about. Now, there were a lot of other great games, and there were also, ports. Back in those days, there were a lot of games that were unique to one computer.
Yeah.
And so there was no Donkey Kong for it. So people made knockoff Donkey Kongs. There was Donkey King, which is actually pretty great. Donkey Kong is Donkey King for the TRS-80 color computer 2 is one of the best adaptations of Donkey Kong of its time. So that's worth checking out, but unofficial. Donkey King. There was also Sailor Man, an almost perfect replica of Popeye, the arcade Popeye.
That's awesome. That computer sounds great.
Yeah, it was called the Trash 80. It's kind of had this reputation of being this sort of underpowered, crappy computer. And it did... Again, the way these computers come out, it would be a computer would come out and it would be kind of state of the art. And then a year later, another computer would come out that would make the one from last year look like shit. So it was an era of a lot of that. There were a lot of minuses to the system, but it was one of those things. It's being a Mets fan or something.
Oh, sure.
That was my computer. So I was on that team.
Ride or die with that.
And I got to play all the Infocom games for it. I got to play Zork on it. I got to play Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, all that stuff. But Dungeons of Daggorath was the great game. The thing is, it was during that satanic panic of the 80s.
Oh, sure.
And if you showed that game to somebody who was kind of on that wavelength of satanic panic stuff, they'd be like, oh yeah, this is definitely satanic.
Yeah.
It's got that heartbeat is kind of terrifying.
It's so scary. This is actually scarier than 5 horror movies I've seen in the last
Yeah, because it's kind of the combination of the fact that it's kind of moving in real time. It's very dark. It's very sparse, sort of pseudo vector graphics. It's line based. It's not true vector. It's pixels, but that are lines and black. Things are just sort of suggested. It's dark. It's dangerous. The sounds are scary. Stuff creeps towards you, and you hear it get louder as it gets closer. You don't see. You're waiting for this unseen enemy to pounce on you, and then the part that really makes your heart rate go as fast as that heart rate on the screen is that when it's time to fight, you're typing attack left. Now you don't have to type the whole word. You A space L enter, and so you got A space L enter, A space, and you got like the same way you'd be like pounding on like the B button on the NES. You're doing that on it, so that just makes the stress of it go way up.
And the fact that like they could come up from behind you too. That, oh my god, the way the hallways look. There's a game for the Nintendo. It's the Friday the 13th game.
Yeah.
The hallways are set up in the cabins very much like this, and it gives you the same like terrifying.
That game's pretty tense too. And when I was a kid, I wanted Dungeons of Daggorath, but there was like no way that was gonna fly in my house. Like, Dungeons and Dragons wasn't allowed in our house. So Dungeons of Daggorath sounds, it's like, we know what you're doing,
The cover of the box looks awesome.
Yeah, that's an iconic image too. It is really beautiful and hewn in stone, troll carrying like a stone axe down this hallway. Not that far off from what the actual game is, like more color, a little, more whatever, but like the game itself like really delivers.
This is scary as an adult. I can't imagine how scary this would have been playing this as like a little kid. With like the lights a little low and like...
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about that. Playing as a kid in the 80s, early 80s, when games are, that was state of the art. There wasn't like... There were other 3D sort of maze games, but there wasn't one that immersive at that point. At the time, it's the Satanic Panic. So... like, I remember conversations. I remember when I was a kid, this like friend of the family who, who was like a teenager, he was like talking to my dad about it. And he was on board with the Satanic Panic thing too. He was like, yo, I was at my friend's house and he had this game and it had this heartbeat going. And it was, it's dungeons and there's demons in that dungeon and stuff. That was the kind of talk around it. And of course I wanted to play it like real bad. And I'd read about it in like computer magazines. There was Rainbow, which was the magazine for the color computer, the Tandy color computer. And I'd get issues of that and I'd like read about it in there. There'd be like hints and tricks and like screenshots and stuff. Like I wasn't allowed to play it because it was satanic. And then there was one of the teachers at my school. She was a nun, and she called me into her classroom. And I didn't know what it was about. And she was asking me if I know how to like defeat something in that game, Dungeons of Daggorath, because I was kind of like, known as sort of the computer geek of school and stuff. Well, because those Tandy color computers, again, the Radio Shack was like right in our neighborhood. So our school, that was the computer that they had in the computer lab too. They had a bunch of those computers. But see, so this nun, like, I'm not allowed to play this game because it's too satanic, but this nun is like sitting, at the convent on her nights off.
Tom, I want to see you after class. He's good at video games.
Oh, Last
Starfighter. You're like
this nun wants me to help her fight Satan. And this was like maybe a year or two before. I mean, the game had been out for a couple years by this point, but this was maybe like a year or two before the NES, before Legend of Zelda, and stuff. So a year or two later, it would be like, kids in school, like, oh, how do you defeat this in Zelda and stuff. But she was asking me about that, and I said, oh, I don't know how to do that because I'm not allowed to play that game because it's satanic. And she was like, what? Now again, being Catholic, like the Satanic Panic stuff was like not as much of like a Catholic thing. It was more like an evangelical thing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, my dad, who is Catholic, like he latched onto that Satanic Panic stuff too. But I feel like that wasn't typical.
You're right.
You'd see it on TV. There'd be those televangelists and stuff. And so I think my dad got kind of pulled into that hype. Through that.
Anton LaVey, it says programmed by Anton.
So I never really got to play it, and then I got my hands on it, like on a copy of it. Like I borrowed a copy from a friend. Again, it's this satanic. Do you know that your son has this satanic? So I got a hold of it and I played it a little, and like I just was sort of clueless with it.
Yeah,
I didn't know what to do, and I was never able to defeat a monster like ever in it. And so got bored of it. And also by that point, by the time I actually got to play it, Zelda was out, stuff like that was out. So I was kind of like, oh, this is yesterday's news. And also I had been playing the Infocom games. And the Infocom games, they're like Zork and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They prided themselves on being like intellectual experiences. They're like these other adventure games with graphics. we shit on those. Like,
Yeah.
forget that. Like, because they have simplistic vocabularies. Ours has this super sophisticated vocabulary, and they have shitty graphics. We don't use graphics. We have lush prose that makes your brain is the graphics engine. That was the big ad for them.
I was playing so much Zork after we did our episode on that.
Well, and with this, it Dungeons of Daggorath kind of has like a unique to itself text interface. Like, there's no north, east, south, and west. Like, the computer does keep track of like a north, east, south, and west, but like you don't type move north or whatever. Like, it is kind of like Doom or something where everything's relative. It's left, right, forward, and then you turn yourself around and you go forward. And so, and there's no like compass or anything keeping you like like oriented what direction you're going. So it is like you really are dropped in this dark tunnel, and
it's kind of nightmare fuel.
It was left unresolved. So this was like years and years ago was like the last time I played it. And then recently we were talking about dungeon crawls, and I kind of got like an itch for it. And I did eventually buy a copy of the game somewhere along, like I have the cartridge somewhere within like the past 10 years or so. But I don't know where my Tandy color computer is. And I might have even given it away. I might have like given it to my nephew or something, because sometimes I would give away like old systems that I don't use to like my nieces and nephews. So maybe that, but or maybe it's just somewhere, in my basement or something. I just haven't tracked it down. But I have had the game, but like I hadn't played it since I was a kid. I read Ready Player One, and when it showed up in there, I was like, whoa, somebody else. Like I was thinking, oh, this guy, Ernest Cline, we must be like the same age. We had the same computer. Maybe he lived in the same neighborhood where there was like a Radio Shack, and that was like the computer everybody had.
Ernest Cline, he was at the when they dug up E.T. He was there when they dug it up.
Yeah, he's into all that same kind of stuff, which is why I did enjoy that book quite a bit. Like it was, I was kind of like right on the same page with it. But so then now all these years later, we're talking about dungeon crawls, and I was like, oh, let me try Dungeons of Daggorath. But the difference now is that I got the internet. Last time I played it, no internet. There was ARPANET or whatever. I could kind of look up, like, just to kind of get myself on my feet. And so I looked up a little bit, like, okay, here's what you need to do to kind of like not just die immediately, because when you start out, you're like very underpowered, so it's kind of like do or die. So I just picked away at it a little bit, like playing an emulator. I just like picked away at it a little bit, and it felt so good. It felt like I'd completed this circle, this thing that had a mystique, and that I wanted so bad to kind of do and be a part of, and just never was able. And now all these years later, I'm able to do it, and I'm approaching mastery. Like I was sort of obsessed with it, and I got like little by again. Maybe it is satanic. Maybe, like it's working exactly the way they said it would. And yet, getting obsessed with this thing where you're in this like dark underworld fighting demons, and your heart is about to like explode.
I sucked so. It's a hard game.
Well, hopefully, since you saw me do it, like it's like. You can kind of grok it a little.
Yeah.
Like I am completely obsessed with it. It does seems like it. That's the tendency with this game. Like that people do seem to get obsessed with it. But yeah, it is really rewarding. And when you do get good at it, it feels like you really earned it. Like again, because like it's hard to. They don't make games anymore that are hard entry, like steep. What do you call it? Steep learning curve. Yeah, they don't make games like that. Yeah, there's a steep learning curve, but once you pass it, it's so like you feel like you really accomplished something.
That rock troll, all the bad guys scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, even the snake's kind of scary, and then there's the little spider that's got like one eye and stuff. That's kind of creepy. Little by little, it's like first, it's like I couldn't defeat anything. Then I defeated a monster. Oh, that's great. And then I could defeat two monsters, and then eventually. I like was able to get from level 1 to level 2, and that was a big deal. But then level 2, I'd get killed immediately by one of those giant knights. And then I like learned how to defeat the knight, but the knight still scares me because it's like this clanking metal sound as it gets closer. Effects. And then it is huge. It is so tall. It like stretches from floor to ceiling. It just towers over you, and it'll demolish you.
During Halloween, I'm gonna play a sound effects reel from this game.
The other thing that's funny about it is it's got all these quirks to it that, like, I don't know if they were features that were, designed to be features, or if it were bugs that end up being like sort of workarounds for stuff. And it is a remarkable piece of gaming art. And the company that made it, like the guy who's sort of responsible for it, who's sort of like the programmer, team leader, whatever. Like this is it for games. That's like the one game they put out. They do like medical software.
Oh,
right?
wow.
You know, so it was like they tried their hand at games, hit a home run right off the bat, and then just found it more lucrative to be involved in medical technologies. But one of the things in it is that the monsters are. There was an episode of The X-Files where David Duchovny says that like vampires are like real obsessive, and so if you're getting attacked by a vampire, dump like some marbles on the floor, and then the vampire has to stop and pick up all the marbles before it can continue its attack on you. That's how the monsters are in this game. Like if there's a bunch of stuff on the floor, like if you drop a bunch of stuff from your inventory on the floor, then and you're standing there, the monster comes over, and then it has to pick up each. It has to take its time picking up each piece as you're like hacking away at it with your sword. So that becomes the strategy. Like once the monsters start reaching a certain level, it's like that's the way you got to defeat them.
Any more monsters that we haven't seen yet in there? We got the rock troll, the knight, the snake.
The furthest I got was level 3, and I've gotten to level 3 like twice. Every time I get there, I die immediately because there's scorpions. And scorpions, they just have to bite you once and you die instantly. So those are tough. The first time I went there, the scorpions are invisible unless you're using a lunar torch. So the first time I went down there, and then I just got killed by something I didn't even see. The second time I was ready with my lunar torch, and I went down there, and then it's like you see this hazy outline of
scary.
It, and it killed me. So maybe next time I'll be able to, trounce the scorpion.
This is nothing to sneeze at. Dude, I was playing Dungeons of Daggorath, and I'm like, this might be one of the hardest games I've ever got involved in.
Yeah, there's this big hump you have to get over. But you could see, like,
I was getting pissed off.
When I you could see from me playing, like I was getting around, I was cruising through that game. Like I made it to level 2, and I probably could have hung out on level 1 a little longer and like beefed up my character, and then went down to level 2. But 3 days ago, I was not. 3 days ago, I could maybe defeat like 1 or 2 monsters, and
I'm obsessed, man.
Yeah.
But
give it a go.
I'm curious what it's going for on the aftermarket.
Yeah, the computer itself goes $100 to $300. Which again, that's a lot for a computer that was literally junk. Like from the 80s to like I really think it probably was the result of Ready Player One that it became like this huge collectible.
Oh, sure.
Like everybody wanted the Coco and they wanted Dungeons of Daggorath.
The Dungeons of Daggorath that you sent me, is this a different emulator you're rocking here?
This is a different emulator. This is an emulator of just the Coco. That one that you played was like a dedicated Daggorath emulator, and the guy who created the game, he got the rights back to it. Like they lapsed so he had the rights back to it, and he just made it like open source. And if you want to post it or do whatever, you can do whatever you want.
That's pretty
cool.
And
if you want to get the source code, you just pay him a couple bucks, he'll send it to you. And so it's like everywhere now. Like there's versions of it everywhere. People mess around with it, sometimes do little tweaks, but when you were playing, it's a little faster than the actual game, which makes it like super hard. Like it like moves a little faster. Again, we were talking about the sort of like lethargic pace of Dark Chambers. Like the lethargic pace works for this because if it was like any faster, you just have no chance whatsoever. But the lethargic pace kind of gives you a chance. Like it's moving, it's real time. It's not going to stand around and wait for you.
What a lineup of games.
So yeah, that's Dungeons of Daggorath. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Space Opera Xanadax Across the Unknown Dimensions of the Galaxy, coming in August from Image Comics, and Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater coming in July in a beautiful trade paperback edition. And then The Twilight Zone. I'm doing issue 2 of the Twilight Zone comic book series from IDW. It's like a standalone 1-issue story. Each issue is a different story by different creators, and that's going to be mine.
Congrats on that.
Thanks.
I'm Matt Zeoli.